They thought it would be funny. A harmless prank. Something to laugh about over drinks afterward while scrolling through the photos they'd secretly taken. But what happened that night at Romano's, the dimly lit Italian restaurant on the corner of 5th and Main, wasn't funny at all. It was the moment two broken people found something they'd both stopped believing in. But before we dive into the story, tell us where in the world are you joining from today? Let us know in the comments below. Now, let's continue. David Chen sat alone at table 7, smoothing down his navy button-up for the 3rd time in 5 minutes. The fabric felt stiff against his calloused hands that spent more time braiding his daughter's hair than wearing dress shirts. At 34, he looked tired. Not the kind of tired that sleep could fix, but the kind that settles into your bones when you've been both mother and father for 3 years straight. The restaurant hummed with Friday night energy. Silverware clinked against porcelain. Wine glasses caught the amber glow of Edison bulbs hanging from exposed wooden beams. Couples leaned across candle-lit tables, their laughter easy and unguarded. David felt like an imposter among them. His phone buzzed. Another text from Marcus, his co-worker and supposed friend. "Dude, she's coming. This is gonna be gold. Wait till you see her." David's stomach twisted. He'd reluctantly agreed to this blind date after months of Marcus pestering him, insisting he needed to get back out there. But something about Marcus's tone all week had felt off. Too enthusiastic. Too insistent. Like he was enjoying a joke David wasn't in on yet. Across the restaurant, near the kitchen entrance, Marcus sat with 2 other guys from the warehouse, their phones positioned just right to capture table 7. They'd planned this for 2 weeks. Set David up with Emma Rodriguez, the painfully shy new hire from accounting who could barely make eye contact in meetings. They'd told David she was confident and outgoing. They'd told Emma that David specifically asked for her. Both lies. And now, as Emma pushed through the restaurant's heavy wooden door, her hands trembling around the strap of her worn leather purse, neither of them had any idea they were tonight's entertainment. The hostess gestured toward table 7, and Emma's breath caught in her throat. Emma's legs felt like they might give out beneath her. She'd changed outfits 4 times before leaving her apartment, finally settling on a simple green dress that her sister said brought out her eyes. Now she wished she'd stayed home, wished she'd never agreed to this, wished she could disappear into the polished hardwood floor. But David had already seen her. He was standing now, and something in his expression stopped her spiral of panic. He wasn't smirking, wasn't looking past her for someone else. His smile was gentle, uncertain, like he was just as nervous as she was. "Emma?" His voice was soft, almost apologetic for disturbing the air between them. She nodded, not trusting herself to speak yet. Her cheeks burned as she approached the table, hyper-aware of every step, every eye that might be watching. She didn't notice Marcus and his friends in the corner, phones raised. David pulled out her chair. The gesture was old-fashioned, almost out of place in 2024, but his hands shook slightly as he did it. That small tremor made something in Emma's chest loosen just a fraction. "Thank you," she whispered, sliding into the seat. He returned to his own chair, and for a moment they just looked at each other. Really looked. Not the quick, dismissive glances people gave in office hallways, but something deeper. Emma saw the exhaustion around his eyes, the slight coffee stain on his collar he'd tried to scrub out. David saw the way she held herself. Compact, protective, like she was trying to take up as little space as possible. I'm not really good at this," David said finally, his fingers fidgeting with the edge of his napkin. "To be honest, I haven't been on a date since my wife passed away, 3 years ago." Emma's eyes widened. That wasn't what Marcus had told her. He'd said David was some smooth-talking guy who went on dates all the time, that he'd specifically noticed her and wanted to take her out. The lie began to crystallize, but she pushed it aside. "I'm sorry," she said, and meant it. Her voice was barely audible above the restaurant noise, but David leaned forward to hear her better. "That must be... I can't imagine." "It's okay. I mean, it's not okay, but..." He exhaled, running a hand through his dark hair. "My daughter, Lily, she's 7. She's been telling me I need to make a friend. I think she's worried about me." Something cracked open in Emma's carefully constructed walls. "I'm not good at this either," she admitted, her fingers twisting together in her lap. I almost turned around twice before I came inside. Marcus told me you were this really confident person, and I thought there must have been some mistake." "Wait." David's brow furrowed. "Marcus told me you were confident and outgoing. He said you'd make me feel comfortable." Their eyes met, and in that moment they both understood. They'd been set up. Not for romance, for humiliation, for entertainment. The realization should have sent them running. Instead, something unexpected happened. David's mouth twitched, then Emma's. And suddenly they were both laughing. Quiet, disbelieving laughter that held equal parts pain and absurdity. "We're the joke," Emma said softly. David glanced toward the corner where he'd spotted Marcus earlier, saw the phones, the barely suppressed grins. His jaw tightened, but when he looked back at Emma, his expression softened. "Maybe we were supposed to be," he said quietly, "but we don't have to be." The waiter came and went. They ordered without really looking at the menu. Pasta for him, soup for her. Neither particularly cared about the food. The restaurant continued its Friday night rhythm around them, but at table 7, time seemed to slow, to bend around 2 people who'd stopped performing. "Do you want to leave?" David asked, his voice careful, giving her an exit. "I'd understand. This whole thing, it's cruel. You don't owe me anything." Emma surprised herself. "No," she said, then stronger. "No, I don't want to leave." She couldn't explain it. But sitting across from this tired, genuine man felt safer than anywhere she'd been in months. Maybe years. The silence between them wasn't the suffocating kind she'd learned to dread. It was the kind where something true might actually be said. David nodded slowly, relief flickering across his features. He took a breath, like he was deciding whether to jump off a cliff. "Can I tell you something? Something I haven't told anyone except my therapist?" "Okay," Emma whispered. "I'm terrified every single day that I'm failing Lily." The words came out rough, like they'd been lodged in his throat for too long. Her mom, Sarah, she was the one who knew how to do everything. The birthday parties, the Halloween costumes, the way to braid hair so it actually stayed. I'm a warehouse supervisor who burns frozen pizzas. And Lily? She started asking why she doesn't have a mom like the other kids. How do you answer that? His eyes were bright with unshed tears, and Emma felt her own throat tighten. She'd spent so long invisible, assuming everyone else had it figured out. That their lives were full and uncomplicated. But here was David Chen, falling apart in the gentlest way possible. "I don't think you're failing," Emma said quietly. "I think you're surviving. There's a difference." David looked at her, really looked, and Emma felt exposed, seen. It was terrifying and comforting all at once. "What about you?" he asked gently. "Marcus said you just moved here, that you were looking to meet people." Emma's laugh was bitter. "Marcus says a lot of things." She paused, her fingers tracing the rim of her water glass. "I moved here 6 months ago from Phoenix. Fresh start, new job, all that. But the truth is, I ran away." She'd never said it out loud before. The words felt like stones she'd been carrying finally being set down. From what? David's voice held no judgment, only quiet curiosity. From myself, I guess. From being the girl everyone overlooked. I was engaged once, 2 years ago. Ethan. She said his name like it tasted bad. He proposed on Christmas in front of both our families. Big romantic gesture. 6 months later, I found out he'd been cheating with my co-worker for most of our relationship. When I confronted him, you know what he said? David shook his head, his expression darkening. He said, "You were supposed to be temporary, just practice until I found someone real." Emma's voice cracked. Practice. Like I was a dress rehearsal for his actual life. Jesus, David breathed. Emma, that's... After that, I couldn't be in the same city anymore. Couldn't walk past our coffee shop or the park where he proposed without feeling like I was disappearing. So I left. Got this job, started over, but I brought all that fear with me. The feeling that I'm not enough, that I'm forgettable. David reached across the table without thinking, his hand covering hers. It wasn't romantic. It was human. A lifeline between two people drowning in separate oceans. You're not forgettable, he said firmly. And that guy was an idiot. Emma looked down at his hand, rough and warm and steady. For the first time in 2 years, she felt like maybe, just maybe, she wasn't practice for someone else's happiness. Maybe she was allowed to be real. Their food arrived, steam rising from the plates, but neither moved to eat right away. The confession had changed something. The air between them felt lighter, stripped of pretense. Lily drew a picture of me last week, David said suddenly, a small smile tugging at his lips. Want to see? Emma nodded, watching as he pulled out his phone. His lock screen was a photo of a little girl with pigtails and a gap-toothed grin, holding a stuffed dinosaur. He scrolled to his photos and turned the screen toward Emma. The drawing was clearly done by a child, stick figures with circle heads. But the details made Emma's heart squeeze. There was a tall figure labeled Daddy, with a big smile, holding hands with a smaller figure labeled Me. Above them, drawn in purple crayon, were the words My Hero, with backwards letters and a giant heart. She taped it to the bathroom mirror, David said, his voice thick with emotion. So I'd see it every morning when I'm trying to convince myself I know what I'm doing. Emma felt tears prick her eyes. That's beautiful. She loves you so much. Yeah, David whispered, looking at the drawing like it was a treasure map. She does, even when I mess up the braids. Emma laughed, a real laugh this time, not the nervous kind. I bet they're not that bad. They're catastrophic. I watched 7 YouTube tutorials. 7. Still looks like a bird's nest had a fight with a rubber band. The image made Emma giggle. And David's face lit up at the sound. It transformed him, made him look younger, less burdened. And Emma realized with a start that she'd stopped hunching her shoulders. Her hands were visible on the table instead of hidden in her lap. She was taking up space. You have a really nice laugh, David said softly, then immediately looked embarrassed. Sorry, that probably sounds... No, Emma interrupted, her cheeks warming. No, that's... Thank you. Most people don't notice me enough to know what my laugh sounds like. Then they weren't paying attention. Something shifted. The restaurant noise faded further into the background. At table 7, 2 people who'd been set up as a joke were discovering something neither expected. They actually liked each other. Across the room, Marcus's smile was beginning to fade. 3 weeks later, Emma stood outside David's apartment building, a container of homemade cookies in her trembling hands. They'd been texting every day since that night at Romano's, long conversations that stretched past midnight about everything and nothing. But this was different. This was meeting Lily. The door opened, and a small tornado in a pink tutu burst through. Are you Emma? Daddy said you were coming. Do you like dinosaurs? I have 12. Well, 11 because Rex lost his tail, but he still counts. Lily's words tumbled out in one breathless stream, her dark eyes, so much like David's, sparkling with unfiltered excitement. David appeared behind her, hair disheveled, wearing an apron that said, "Dad Jokes Loading." He looked mortified and hopeful all at once. "Lily, let her breathe." "It's okay," Emma said, surprising herself with how much she meant it. She knelt down to Lily's level. "I love dinosaurs, and I brought cookies." Lily's gasp was pure magic. "Daddy, she brought cookies. Can we keep her?" Over Lily's head, David and Emma's eyes met, and they both smiled. The kitchen was chaos. Flour dusted every surface. Lily had somehow gotten mashed potatoes in her hair. David's attempt at gravy had the consistency of concrete. But Emma moved through it all with quiet competence, rescuing dishes, teaching Lily how to roll pie crust, laughing when David accidentally used salt instead of sugar in the whipped cream. "This is the best Thanksgiving ever," Lily announced, sitting at the small dining table David had borrowed extra chairs for. She'd insisted on making place cards, construction paper with everyone's names in crayon. Emma's card had a heart next to her name. "Even with concrete gravy?" David asked, grinning. "Especially with concrete gravy," Lily said seriously. Then, looking at Emma, "Are you going to be here for Christmas too?" Emma's breath caught. David's hand found hers under the table. "I hope so," Emma whispered. Emma had never been to an elementary school production before. She sat in the squeaky auditorium chair, wedged between David and a woman with an elaborate video camera setup. Lily was playing Tree Number 3 in The Forest Awakens. When Lily appeared on stage in her brown costume, clearly homemade, with leaves that kept falling off, Emma felt David tense beside her. "I tried my best with the costume," he whispered. "Sarah would have—" "It's perfect," Emma interrupted gently, squeezing his hand. "Look at her face. She's so proud." And she was. Lily stood there, arms stretched up like branches, beaming with pure joy. When she spotted David and Emma in the audience, her smile grew impossibly wider, and she waved, breaking character completely. After the show, Lily ran to them, leaves trailing behind her. She hugged David first. Then, without hesitation, threw her arms around Emma's waist. "You came," Lily said into Emma's dress. "Of course I came," Emma replied, her voice thick. "I wouldn't miss it." "Miss Rodriguez?" a voice called out. Emma turned to see her manager from work, his daughter in a butterfly costume beside him. He looked stunned. "I didn't know you. I've never seen you at company events, but here you are." Emma realized what he was seeing. Her, laughing, surrounded by people taking up space, being visible, being real. "This is my family," she said simply. The words felt both terrifying and true. It was 2 a.m. when David called. Emma answered on the first ring. "She's asking about Sarah," David's voice was ragged. "About why her mom had to die. About if it was her fault somehow. Emma, I don't know what to say." "I don't know how to make this better." "I'm coming over," Emma said, already grabbing her keys. When she arrived, David was on the couch, Lily curled in his lap, both of them with red-rimmed eyes. Emma didn't hesitate. She sat beside them, and Lily immediately reached for her. "It's not fair," Lily whispered. "Everyone else has a mom." Emma's heart shattered. She looked at David, who nodded. Permission to speak truth. "You're right," Emma said softly, stroking Lily's hair. "It's not fair. And it's okay to be angry about that. It's okay to be sad. Your mom loved you so much and she didn't want to leave you. Sometimes really unfair things happen, and we don't get to understand why." "Do you think she knows about you?" Lily asked, looking up at Emma with those impossibly honest eyes children have. Emma's throat tightened. I think she knows your dad is taking really good care of you, and maybe she's glad you have people who love you. Do you love us? Lily asked. The apartment went silent. David's eyes found Emma's across Lily's head. Emma had spent her whole life hiding, being practice, being temporary. But here, at 2 a.m., holding this heartbroken child, sitting beside this man who'd shown her what genuine kindness looked like, here, she couldn't hide. Yes, Emma whispered, I love you both, so much. Lily fell asleep between them an hour later. Neither David nor Emma moved, afraid to break the moment, afraid to disturb the family they'd accidentally become. Marcus showed up at David's door on a rainy Tuesday in April. He looked smaller than David remembered. His shoulders hunched, hands shoved deep in his jacket pockets. The cocky swagger from that night at Romano's had evaporated. Can I talk to you? Marcus asked, not quite meeting David's eyes. David didn't invite him in. He stepped onto the porch, closing the door behind him, protecting the warmth inside from whatever this was. I got fired, Marcus said flatly. HR found out about the setup, about the recording. Someone at the restaurant reported it. Harassment in the workplace, they called it. Creating a hostile environment. He laughed bitterly. Funny thing is, Emma never even filed a complaint, but they investigated anyway. David said nothing. I came to apologize, to both of you. What I did... Marcus's voice cracked. I thought it was just a joke. I didn't think about how it would feel. I didn't think about you having to go home to your kid and explain why your coworkers treated you like that. Or Emma having to face everyone at the office. No, David said quietly. You didn't think, because we weren't real people to you. We were entertainment. Marcus flinched like he'd been slapped. I know, and I'm sorry, genuinely. I don't expect you to forgive me. David looked at this man who'd tried to humiliate him, who'd turned his vulnerability into a spectacle. He thought about what Emma had taught him, that hurt people often hurt people, that cruelty usually comes from emptiness. I hope you figure out why you needed to make yourself feel bigger by making us feel small, David said finally. I hope you become better than that. He went back inside, back to where Lily and Emma were making dinner, back to the life Marcus's cruelty had accidentally given him. Some justice, David realized, wasn't about revenge. It was about refusing to let cruel people steal your joy. 6 months after that first night, David planned it for weeks. Not the restaurant, they'd never gone back to Romano's, but the park where Lily loved to feed the ducks. The same park where, 3 months ago, Emma had taught Lily how to braid flower stems into crowns. It was golden hour, the sun painting everything amber and soft. Lily was in on the secret, practically vibrating with excitement as she, coincidentally, asked Emma to help her look for the perfect stick near the pond. When they returned, David was standing by the old oak tree, and Emma's breath caught. He looked terrified, hopeful, completely vulnerable. Emma, he started, his voice shaking. That night at Romano's I thought I was going to be humiliated, and I was, but not in the way Marcus intended. I was humiliated by how clearly I'd forgotten what it felt like to be seen, to be known. Emma's eyes were already filling with tears. Lily squeezed her hand. You walked into that restaurant expecting to be a joke, and instead you became the most real thing in my life. You've taught Lily that families can be built, not just born. You've taught me that grief doesn't have to mean the end of joy. His voice cracked. You've taught both of us that we're allowed to take up space in the world. He knelt down, not on one knee, but fully kneeling, the way someone does when they're surrendering completely. I'm terrified, David whispered. Terrified that I'm not enough, that my broken pieces won't fit with yours, that I'll fail you the way I'm scared I'm failing Lily every day, But I'm more terrified of a life where you're not in it. He pulled out a small velvet box. Inside was a simple silver band with 3 small stones, one for each of them. Will you marry us? David asked. Will you let us be your family? Will you let us prove that you were never practiced for someone else's life? You were always meant to be here, in ours? Emma couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. Every word she'd ever been told about being forgettable, about being temporary, shattered like glass. Lily tugged her hand. Please say yes. We need you. Emma dropped to her knees in front of them both, tears streaming down her face. Yes, she sobbed. Yes, 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 you're not broken. Neither of you. You're perfect. You're everything. David slipped the ring on her finger with shaking hands. And then they were all crying, holding each other under the oak tree while ducks quacked obliviously nearby. They'd been set up as a joke, but they'd found something no one could have scripted. A love built from broken pieces, held together by the strongest glue in the world. People who'd stopped pretending and started being real. 1 year later, the wedding was small. Just 20 people in Emma's sister's backyard, string lights crisscrossing overhead like captured stars. Lily stood between them as they exchanged vows, holding a basket of flower petals, wearing a dress she'd picked out herself. Purple, with dinosaurs embroidered on the hem. Emma's vows were simple. You taught me that being seen isn't something to fear. It's something to celebrate. David's voice broke 3 times. You turned the worst night of my life into the beginning of everything good. At the reception, Emma's co-worker, the manager who'd been shocked to see her at Lily's play, approached hesitantly. I owe you an apology, he said. I never really saw you at work. I assumed you wanted to be invisible. I should have tried harder. Emma smiled, no bitterness in it. We all miss things sometimes. What matters is what we do when we finally see clearly. As the evening stretched into night, David and Emma danced slowly while Lily chased fireflies with the other children. The song was nothing special. Something soft and forgettable playing from a Bluetooth speaker. But the moment was everything. Do you ever think about that night? Emma asked, her head on David's shoulder. About Marcus and his friends, thinking they were so clever? David pulled back to look at her, then at Lily, glowing in the fairy lights, completely free. Sometimes, he admitted. And then I think about how they tried to make us feel small, and instead we became infinite. Because that's the thing about cruelty. It can only win if you let it define you. But kindness? Kindness builds kingdoms. They'd been set up as entertainment for cruel people who couldn't understand that everyone, the single dad with coffee stains on his collar, the shy woman who took up too little space, everyone carries entire universes inside them. Everyone deserves to be seen. Marcus had wanted a joke. What he got was a love story that proved something he'd never understand. The people you underestimate are often the ones brave enough to choose each other when the world tries to keep them small. As the night deepened and the fireflies multiplied, 3 people who'd found each other in the ruins of a prank stood together under the stars. No longer broken, no longer invisible, no longer alone. Just a family, built from kindness, held together by the revolutionary act of seeing someone's worth when the world insists they have none. And somewhere, in a restaurant across town, at table 7 where it all began, a different couple sat down for their first date. Nervous, hopeful, unaware that sometimes the worst moments become doorways to the best lives. The light caught Emma's ring as she lifted Lily into her arms. And for just a moment, everything was exactly as it should be. Perfect. Real. Home.